Good afternoon. I'm going to review some of the problems that we did not have too much time to review from February 11th and February 12th. So these are towards the latter part of the day two notes. I just wanted to give a better explanation for some of these. All right, for problem 5, you have triangle ABC and triangle DEF, and I'll tell you a triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. And the order of the letters is super important. And so I've stressed that from earlier this year. The reason being, the order tells us which angles are congruent to each other. So A and D, B and E, C and F. Also, we're going to figure out which sides are congruent to each other. Or similar, I should say, not congruent, but similar in this case. AB is going to be similar to DE. That's why I'm going to underline them. And then BC, EF will be similar. Again, look at that order, position of the letters. And then C to A, F to D. That's why it's crucial. So then, especially when we start dealing with setting up the scale factor and finding proportions, we need to figure out which letters we're going to place over which other letters. And that's the key, because here you can put A, B, C. I'll start again. I'm just going to write the letters A, B, C over D, E, F. And actually, we don't need that line for the moment, so I'll get rid of it. But I just want everybody to get an idea, follow that positive practice. Take the first few letters, put them up directly over the second group of letters. And again, the key is look at the direction and the position of your triangle or your polygon. As in this case, we see position A to B is the exact same as DE, and then BC, BF, and then FD, CA. Now, what we're going to do is the following. This problem took the scale factor. Well, we're going to need two sides. Well, once we need to figure out which corresponding sides have numbers for both. So we can't use AB. So AB is already out of the game. No number here. So AB, DE, we cannot use. Could use BC, but EF can't do, because we don't know that number. And I'm going to talk about that X momentarily. But if we look at CA, we see, oh, CA has a number, FD has a number. So we can use the side CA and FD. So we're going to put CA on the top. So I didn't really go too much into detail on how we got these letters, but CA on the top and FD on the bottom. And then we see, okay, CA is 12, FD is 6, simplified 2 over 1. But if we want the scale factor, we have to include the 1. So you're going to write it as 2, colon 1. Because I know when we reduce the fraction, 2 over 1 becomes 2. But since it's a ratio, we cannot get rid of the 1. We have to keep the 1. Now, going to the second part of the problem, we want to figure out what the value of EF is. That's why we have this X. We don't know it. However, we do know the following. We know that BC is corresponding to EF. So we put BC on top of the EF. And then for the other part of our proportion, we have to keep the same, you have to use the same triangle. We know that AC, we're going to use CA. And 12 over df, and we know df is going to be 6 for this problem. Oops. Let me make that f more visible. So now we have the proportion 12 over 6 equals 13 over x. Now, I'm going to tell you, you will get a decimal for this value of x. What you need to do is do your cross multiplying. You need to multiply 13 times 6 along with 12 times x, and you will get, as a result, 13 times 6, 78. That's going to be equal to 12x. And then, of course, divide both sides by 12. You will get a decimal for that. I promise you. Now, let's look at problem number 6. Okay, similar situation. You can go. They're going to say J, K, L, similar to S, R, T. Since these two triangles are similar, what will happen now is the following. Your scale factor. We need something that has both, like, so we see JK as a number. Okay, there's SR, which is the corresponding side. Does that also have a number? Okay, it does. This can work. So we see that we have JK over SR. We say 5 over 10, which simplifies to 1 over 2. But now the scale factor will actually be 1:2. This is your actual scale factor right here, 1:2. But you need that 1. Well, we needed it anyway, even if it was a fraction. But since we're dealing with a ratio, you have to include the 1. Now, what you do, we figured out ST is that was labeled as X. We don't know what value of X is yet, but we could figure that out. So we're going to set up our ratio. We're going to take our original scale factor, JK to SR, and we're going to set that equal to, well, we need ST, but ST is on the bottom. That's all right. So we're going to go from S to T. So that's the bottom, but we have to keep it on the bottom because that's second triangle. And then you see that from J to L is 1.5 because J to L is the corresponding side. So 1.5 is going to go on top. X is on the bottom. And then again, you're going to do your cross multiplication, your diagonal multiplication, as I like to call it. So when you do that, what will happen is the following. (1.5 times 10, 5 times x, and we get a result of 1.5 times 10 is 15 equals 5 times x, 5x. And actually, we're going to find out x will actually be a whole number for this problem. So at this point, I'm not going to give you much more for that problem because now we know how to solve for x. All right, for these two problems, so what we're going to do is the following. It's going to look like I'm hiding the screen, but I'm going to focus on one problem at a time, just so we don't lose focus. So for problem 7, and then we talked about it towards the very end of last class, your triangle JKI, and we have MNL. Now we need to figure out which sides both have numbers, which corresponding sides both have numbers to get your scale factor. So we see, okay, we start at J, go to K. Oh, 54. And then we see M and L. M and N rather. M to N corresponding. Oh, that's also 54. I mean 42, I'm sorry. But that has a number. This one also has a number. So we're going to use these sides. JK and MN. We're going to use those two to set up our scale factor. So JK, since that's the first triangle, JK is 54, corresponding side, MN 42. Now 54 and 42 are both divisible by 6. As a result, we get 9 over 7, which scale factor, 9 to 7. Now we need to find out what X and Y are. Well, that's going to be two separate proportions. So always, if you have your scale factor, use your scale factor first. So JK, and that's going to always use that first in your first half of the proportion. Then, the second half of the proportion, you need to figure out for X. Okay, X, we see, is J to I or I to J. In fact, we can use J to I, that's fine. So we go from J, oh, we see, oh, it's J to I. I mean, if you want to use I to J, that's okay too. But just be consistent with your order. So for this purpose, for time, we'll just say we're going from J to I. That's the X. And we have to go from M to L. M to L. Oh, that's 28. Now we have our proportion. We have it. We're going to set up our proportion. This one, we're going to have to do some work. You will probably need a calculator to do this problem. Basically, what's going to happen is you're going to multiply X times 42 and 54 times 28. That's going to be your first proportion. And then I'm just going to remove that part of the next problem. So in the end, you will have 54 times 28. You can write it on one side of and you're going to set that equal to, oops, 42 times X. That's going to be the setup. Now, I'm not going to do the whole problem because now you're at a point where we're basically, once you get the diagonal multiplication, you're at that point where basically now you can determine that last value. So we've done a few of these proportion problems. But once we get here, you know how to figure this part out. Now to get the Y, you're going to be in a similar situation. Again, use your scale factor first, which we've established in the beginning. And now you see, oh, okay, the Y is depicted by the segment KI. So I see that KI is the last two letters. But now I also have to see O and L is the corresponding side for the other triangle, which we found out is 35. All right, similar to before. We'll do diagonal multiplication. Y times 42, 42 times Y. Use the same rank, 42 times Y equals 54 times 35. That's how you're going to determine, whoops. That's the key step. Once you get that step, then you have an idea on how to determine this value of y. So you're on your merry way. Multiply these two numbers, then divide both sides by 42. Good to go. Problem 8. Again, they give you the triangle congruence. So you know exactly which sides are congruent. A, B, C, whoops, X, Y, Z. Okay, you know exactly who's going to be congruent to what. Angles, of course, single letter. And sides, of course, AB to XY. Now, AB we see is 34. XY we don't know yet. So we're going to have to leave that alone. Then we see BC 30, YZ 15. Oh, here we go. We can use these two sides because the corresponding sides both have a number. If it has a variable, you can't do it. You need to get the scale factor from the fact that both corresponding sides must have a value. That's the only way you're going to do it. Now you can start it with BC, which is triangle on the left, to YZ, or triangle on the right. So BC we see is 30, YZ 15, and then we simplify 30 over 15 to 2 over 1, or 2 colon 1. Now remember, must include that 1. This one has, this particular number 1 has to be a part of this whole entire problem. You need that here as well. So you don't include it in the scale factor, you're going to get an incorrect answer. Now, solve for x. So x we see is depicted by that side yz. I mean xy, I'm sorry. So then right above the xy is the AB. So AB is going to go directly over the xy. And we see AB was 34. And then xy, we don't know what it is, but we know that it's depicted by the x. Now, usually, this BC over YZ, we should have put that here, then the AB over XY. However, it's not going to matter in the end. I mean, I would prefer the scale factor first, but if you put it second, that's fine, because I know with alphabetical order, we see, okay, AB corresponds to XY, we'll put that first, set it equal to BC corresponding to YZ. That's okay. So just like the previous couple problems, diagonal multiplication, do your cross multiplication. 30 times x, 34 times 15. And then from there, I'll just write down what you need to have. Oops, not using the highlighter. That's not gonna work. We'll use the pen. 30 times x. Equals 34 times 15. Okay, 30 times x equals 34 times 15. From here, I'll let you take the rest of that problem. Similarly, this last part to get the y, well, BC, YZ, that's your scale factor. Now y, even though y is corresponding to that side ZX. So we're going to write the ZX on the bottom because we want to keep it with the YZ. We keep that on the bottom. That's the bottom triangle. And then the corresponding side to ZX is CA. And you'll see that in 1 second. Here we go. You're going to see that Z to X goes this way, and C to A also goes that way. So then what we have to do, set up the highlighter, and it sets up. And again, do your diagonal multiplication one more time. So do your CA times YZ, or 16 times 15, 30 times Y. And then from there, you're on your way to figuring out what the value of Y will be. So, not going to tell you. You can do it. I believe in you. All right. Example 1. Company produces a U.S. flag that is 3 feet by 5 feet, and a giant flag which is similar to the standard flag. So the shorter side of the big flag is 36. What's the length of the longer side? Well, we have 2 diagrams. Flag 1, shorter side is 3, longer side is 5. Now, you can put it 3 over 5 or 5 over 3, but just to know. Okay, longer side is 5, shorter side 3, so we're going to go 5 over 3. Then for the larger flag, longer side is 36. I mean, the X. That's your longer side. The shorter side, 36. That's for the big flag. So what we need to do now, this might help. Put 36 on the bottom, X on the top. Now we're going to do our cross or diagonal multiplication, whichever you prefer to use. So basically, we have the dot X times X is 3. And then we have 5, 36. And then from there we have X times 3, or 3 times X, 3X. 5 times 36. We're going to set those products equal to each other and solve for X, which at this point you can do. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, those were the last few problems. You might see very similar problems on your homework. So I'm going to give you this video in addition to the notes and the original problems that we did from the first half of class for February 11th or February 12th. All right, so that's all the day 2 information. And we will be in touch soon. See you soon.